An epic traffic jam in the Suez Canal. Hi there, I'm Jeff. JR is the producer of this fine program, and this is Plain English lesson number 354. You can find the full lesson online at plainenglish.com/354. On today's lesson, the Suez Canal is a major choke point in global trade, and a massive cargo ship got stuck, blocking traffic in both directions for 6 days. We'll explore what happened and who suffered as a result of this epic traffic jam. The expression is back up, and if you remember it from a previous lesson, don't worry, this is a new way to use back up. And we have a quote of the week. So let's get started. A massive ocean-going container ship got stuck in the Suez Canal, snarling global trade for a week. The Suez Canal is an essential shipping route that connects Europe and Asia. Container ships from China, Malaysia, and other Asian countries travel up the Red Sea on the east coast of Africa, through Egypt's Suez Canal, and into the Mediterranean Sea, where they continue on to Europe's southern or northern ports. But all that depends on smooth sailing through the 151-year-old canal. On a typical day, over 100 massive cargo ships pass through the 120-mile canal. The ships carry oil, gas, consumer goods, raw materials, and even livestock. But all that came to a halt at 7:40 in the morning on March 23rd. The Ever Given, a supersized container ship registered in Taiwan, was heading from Malaysia to Rotterdam in the Netherlands when it got stuck in the canal. Its bow rammed the east side of the canal, where it got wedged into the canal's wall and couldn't move. Aerial photos showed the massive ship extending diagonally across the canal, blocking the way for any other traffic. It's still not clear exactly what happened, but preliminary reports suggest that a sandstorm and a burst of strong wind destabilized the ship and caused it to veer off course. Egypt began a race against the clock to free the ship. Every hour that the canal is blocked represents lost money for shippers that pay hefty fees to pass through the waterway. Immediately, ocean-going traffic began to back up. Several ships had already entered the canal zone and couldn't turn around. Other ships started to idle near the entrance to the canal zone. The effects on global trade were felt immediately. A disruption in the flow of oil and gas would impact energy markets around the world. Shippers sending medical devices and other time-sensitive goods began to look into air freight and rail as an expensive alternative. As engineers worked to dredge the canal near the stuck ship, it appeared the backup could last weeks. In the nightmare scenario, the ship's load would have to be lightened with its containers lifted off the top by helicopter. The ship's capacity is 20,000 standard shipping containers. Fearing long delays, some shipping companies decided to bypass the canal entirely, sending their ships around the Cape of Good Hope. Sending a ship around the southernmost point of Africa and all the way up Africa's western coast adds about $500,000 in costs and weeks to a typical journey from Asia to Europe. Dozens of ships were sent this route. Not every shipper had that option. Some of the ships waiting to get through the canal were carrying livestock. There would be no way to reroute livestock because there wouldn't be enough animal feed to keep the livestock alive during that long journey. At the worst point in the delay, over 360 container ships were idling at the northern and southern ends of the canal, waiting and worrying. But extensive dredging and a little bit of help from Mother Nature freed the ship at dawn on Monday, March 29th, 6 days after the ship first got stuck. Dredging is the process of digging out sand from the bed of the sea. At the same time, engineers were working on breaking apart the canal wall where the ship was wedged in. In a stroke of good fortune, however, high tides associated with a full moon helped raise the sea level and dislodge the ship. Once it was freed, a fleet of tugboats guided the Ever Given northbound to safety, and traffic once again began to flow through the canal. Egypt said it would allow more than the average capacity to flow through the canal while the backlog dissipates. Ships carrying livestock were given priority as animal feed was running low. Experts said it would take several days to clear the backlog of ships at anchor waiting to enter the canal. The effects will be felt for months, well after the backlog clears. Global trade in goods is a delicate balance which has been upset by the shipping delays. Europe's biggest ports are expected to be backed up for several days as several ships at once approach to be unloaded and reloaded. The overland logistics will also be stretched as trucks and trains will have to handle the surge in arriving cargo. Since ships were not following their regular schedules, the containers are not where they were expected. The ships that were rerouted will be at sea for weeks longer than anticipated, tying up container capacity. Cargo ready to ship won't be able to be loaded into shipping containers because the containers are delayed. Some retail goods won't reach store shelves on time, potentially leading to shortages in stores in Europe. Some ships were carrying inputs to European factories, so the final goods produced by those factories will also be delayed. What a mess. This just goes to show how delicate the whole world economic system is. We have a few of these physical choke points: the Suez Canal, the Panama Canal. And if just one is blocked for any length of time, it can really mess things up. I had no idea, by the way, that they shipped livestock by ocean vessel. I never really thought of it, but I had no idea you could ship cattle and sheep via an ocean liner. Wow. Today's expression is back up. We talked about back up in lesson 319, but in a different context, so keep listening. In this case, we were talking about the ships that were backed up at the northern and southern entrances of the Suez Canal. These ships were accumulating there, waiting because of a delay in the canal. And that's how we use back up in this sense. When something should be flowing, but it's not flowing because of a disruption. As a result, something accumulates. The most common way of using back up is to talk about traffic. Traffic is all backed up. What can cause traffic to back up? Well, an accident on the highway can do that. An accident on the side of the highway can cause traffic to go slowly. When traffic near the accident slows down, then cars all the way back slow down also. And before you know it, traffic is backed up for miles. That means traffic is slowed down and accumulating for miles. If you listen to the radio around morning or afternoon drive time, you'll hear the traffic reporters telling you when and where the traffic is backed up. If you listen here in Chicago, they might say traffic is backed up on Lakeshore Drive from North Avenue down to the Oak Street curve. If you listen in New York, they might say traffic is backed up for a few miles heading into the Lincoln Tunnel. If you listen in LA, chances are they'll say traffic is backed up everywhere. When we say traffic is backed up, it means traffic is slowing down and cars are accumulating when you want them to be flowing. Your drain can be backed up. That's not a good thing. When I lived in New York, I took quick showers, never more than 15 minutes. And it's not because I was in a hurry either. It's because my shower drain was always backed up. When the water in the tub would accumulate up to about my ankles, that's when I knew it was time to get out. I was renting, so all I could do was complain. But if a drain in your own house is backed up, you can hire a plumber to come fix it. Any drain in your house can be backed up. Your sink can be backed up. Your toilet can be backed up. That's no good. So those are the two most common ways to use back up like this: traffic and plumbing. And the way you heard it today was like traffic, but on the high seas. The container ships were backed up at the entrances to the Suez Canal. A couple other ways you can use it. A factory can get backed up. Why? For one thing, a machine might break. If you have a factory and one of the lines goes down, the process can get backed up. You might have raw materials coming in every day, but if one of your production lines goes down, that will all get backed up. The inputs will start accumulating because you can't use them in production. A factory can get backed up if the workers go on strike, if there's bad weather, or if there's a shortage in just one of the necessary inputs. All those are reasons a factory can get backed up. There's an interruption in the flow. I grew up with dogs, golden retrievers. I don't have a dog right now, but one thing I remember about having a dog is that these Goldens would eat just about anything, sometimes including rocks. If a dog eats rocks, it can cause an interruption in the flow, if you know what I mean. The dog's digestive system can get backed up. Quote of the week time. I saw this one in a magazine article and I really liked it. I forget what the article was about, but the quote was from Mahatma Gandhi, always a good source of wise quotes. He said, "Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it." Yes, indeed. You know, when you work together in a team, friendship, or relationship, they tell you that you have to embrace healthy conflict. That means you need to learn how to have a conflict and manage your way through it so your team, friendship, or relationship survives and is indeed stronger. So keep this in mind. Peace. I think he was talking about society, not interpersonal peace, but it applies either way. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it, says Mahatma Gandhi. And that's all for today's lesson. This was lesson 354 for us. But for you, it might have been your very first lesson. If it was, then welcome to Plain English. I have to keep in mind that every day is someone's first day listening. That's pretty cool. But regardless of how long you've been with us, I want to remind you we have a great website with tons of resources for free at plainenglish.com. Of course, that includes the transcript of every lesson so you can follow along as you listen. But the free membership also includes an extra word from every lesson. We call that Learn the Lingo, and it's all about the more informal words and phrases that I use from time to time. And if you want to read more about the main topic, you can follow the links I include with each transcript. The articles I use to prepare the lesson, I link to them at the bottom of the transcript so you can dive deeper on any topics that interest you. All that is free, and Plain English Plus members can get personalized feedback on practice, watch step-by-step video tutorials, listen to the fast version of the program, and much more. So check that out at plainenglish.com to join for free and plainenglish.com/plus, Plus, to join as a Plus member. See you on Thursday.